Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. I'm Annette Young. Now, while much of the world's attention is currently on whether the United States is going to get its first female president, another top job is up for grabs at the end of this year. United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon will be finishing his 10-year stint in December. The push is now on for the global body for the first time to be led by a woman. And out of the 9 candidates who've thrown their hats into the ring so far, 4 are female. One of them is former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark, who's also currently heading the UN Development Programme, and she joins me in the studio today. Thank you so much, Helen, for being with us. What makes you the best person for the job?
I think the world faces huge challenges, and it looks to the United Nations to step up. That means it's got to be effective, it's got to be responsive. The person in the job has to be able to relate to the very broad diversity of member states. So take it back to my experience, a Prime Minister for 9 years, a leader of the UN's development wing for the last 7 years. Experience in a small but very diverse country, putting together coalition governments that succeeded for 9 years, working in a region where there was New Zealand and Australia, but everyone else was from very different societies, cultures, faiths, backgrounds, wide variety of political systems. So I think I've shown in my time in leadership positions an ability to bring people together around common cause to make progress.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that somebody from Oceania has actually put their hand up, is that right?
Absolutely the first time that anyone from the South Pacific has come forward.
You've said that you're a gender-neutral candidate. What do you mean by that?
Well, it actually wasn't the term I used, but what I said was that I am asking to be elected on the basis that I'm the best person for the job. I've never asked anyone to elect me going right back through a long political career because I'm a woman. Obviously I'm a woman, and I love to see women get to the top. But my appeal is vote for me because I'm the best person for the job. I bring a woman's eyes and ears to it.
Well, what does a woman, if indeed she gets the job, what would she bring to the table that would be different from a man?
Well, fundamentally, women's life cycles are a little different from men. And for women of my generation, we've been used to crashing through a lot of glass ceilings to get to leadership positions. So we know these things don't come on a plate, that we have to be very good at what we do. We have to be very task-focused. We're also used to balancing quite a lot of things. Look, I have family responsibilities. I have an elderly dad. I cook and freeze all his meals from. I've been managing some of the care coordination.
Yes, I can't imagine another male UN candidate saying something like that he freezes his parents' meals.
We balance home, family and work responsibilities as women. So we also see very much the human side, the social side, and we see women as agents of change and transformation of their societies too.
Do you think there's enough women in top jobs at the UN?
No, there's not enough.
What needs to be done?
Well, you have to go out and look for and positively recruit the woman. If I could say it perhaps as a reflection on our gender, often women are not as assertive in putting themselves forward as men are. I've just come from a meeting of the UN Chief Executives Board, which brings together all the heads of agencies in the UN common system, which includes the IMF and the World Bank. There are very few women sitting at that table. That really does need to change.
And do you feel among your peers at the UN that there is an acceptance, an acknowledgement that the time has indeed come for the body to be led by a woman?
There's a lot of member state interest in this. A lot of countries have made statements saying that they would like to see a woman get the job. So, yes, it is definitely open to a woman. But now the hard discussion is starting on what are the challenges and what are the skills required. And I'm putting myself forward because I believe the scale of the challenge requires someone with proven leadership experience, which I have in bucket loads, and also now a lot of experience in the UN system.
Now, there's also a first with the way that this process this time around has been conducted with much greater transparency, with candidates such as yourself effectively being publicly grilled. But at the end of the day, the decision is still made, isn't it, by the UN Security Council? And you need to get the support of key members such as Russia and the United States.
So it's like this, a new process. Never before has there been these open dialogues of each candidate with the General Assembly. That happened on the 14th of April. The nominations were called for in December, and there was obviously a lot of publicity around that for me when I came forward on the 4th of April. But now it goes into a quieter phase publicly, if you like. There are some civil society organisations organising forums, but for the most part now, it is a long process of talking with the member states, hearing what their concerns and priorities are, what are their expectations. France is my first Security Council permanent 5-member country that I have come to at the start of this week, but I'm moving around the permanent members, the non-permanent members, and we'll be interacting with regional groupings of candidates. But yes, at some point it then goes to the Security Council, which will start a process of indicative ballots, they're called straw ballots, to see who's going to be considered further and who not.
What do you think your chances are?
Well, I'm not a betting person. I'm following what the betting agencies are saying. It's a bit like the Totaliser betting agency in New Zealand or Australia, what's happening there at the moment. But look, I have to go in thinking this is an open contest and that the member states are looking at what the organisation needs to lead it, to step up, to meet these huge challenges. We have a lot of conflicts. We have the climate action agenda. We have the whole sustainable development agenda. People are looking, I think, for someone who can lead the UN to be more effective in taking on these challenges.
How tough is it for someone like yourself to, say, get the support of Moscow?
Well, I think the P5 members, permanent 5 members of the Security Council, all have a big stake in who is
They've also
selected.
got different agendas, don't they?
Well, they reflect the rich variety of the membership of the UN. So the person has to be a trusted interlocutor. And here again, I come back to the New Zealand experience. I am very used to working in environments where people have a diverse range of opinions and backgrounds. I've been a leader in my region, working with the South Pacific, working with East and Southeast Asia, working within the Commonwealth format. I'm used to working as UNDP administrator with the whole variety of member states who sit on our board and who fund us and countries we work in so many different contexts. So I have a keen appreciation of how wide that body of views is and how you try to bring people together around a common cause.
Let's talk about the job itself. I mean, the reality is that many people view the UN as an unwieldy body, sort of weighed down with enormous bureaucracy, where regional rivalries triumph the common good. If you got the job, would you commit yourself to a process of reform?
Well, for sure, a lot of the processes around the UN are a bit clunky. I have led a process of reform at UNDP and taken it from being a very inward-looking, closed organisation to now being judged 2 years running as the most transparent aid organisation in the world. That took a lot of effort, but we did it. We have also tackled very decisively our management costs and got them down quite significantly. So we've made a lot of changes. I know it can be done. Now, perhaps there's a little more autonomy in leading the UN Development Programme and getting these things done, but I like to think that with a real push, we can see the UN as truly a modernised and effective organisation.
And nowhere is there a more classic example of ineffectiveness, if you like, on the part of the UN than Syria. I mean, you know, the reality is we've had a war that's gone on now for over 5 years. We've got millions of people who've forced to become refugees. What do you think, if you were leading the UN should do in regards to Syria?
Well, we're in the 6th year of this horrible war, and the conflict in Aleppo right now is horrifying. I saw a headline that said the last children's doctor in Aleppo has been killed. It makes you shake to think of this. Firstly, we have to keep investing every possible effort in behind Staffan de Mistura, who's the UN envoy, who is trying to keep talks going. There has been a ceasefire. It has been partially successful, but there's no point saying that to the people of Aleppo, who have seen so many deaths in just the very recent times. We also have to learn from the Syria experience, and perhaps that means for Secretary-General in the future, member states for the future, at the first signs of trouble, engage, go in, see if it can be mediated. Because when you're in the 6th year of a war, positions are pretty hardened. A lot of blood's been spilled, lives are lost.
Do you think there should be a war crimes tribunal?
I don't have a view on that. I think the critical thing at the moment is to stop the fighting. Stop the fighting, get the parties talking. They haven't been talking directly. There have been talks in different rooms with the UN envoy coming to and fro. We have to have a political and negotiated settlement to this. No one can win this war. It has to be talked out, not fought out.
And that would be number one priority, I imagine, on top of your to-do list, if indeed you got the job.
So I see it really at the top of the to-do list, coming to grips with the new type of conflict we see in the world today. UN was formed on the ashes of World War II, where the League of Nations had failed. It said, we want to end war between nations. Now, by and large, we don't see too many wars between nations. Do we see any less conflict? No, we see these horrible conflicts. They're internal conflicts. They involve the whole range of non-state groups. It could be a terrorist, a jihadist group. It could be a militia of some kind. It could be a fight that's being fueled by divisions exacerbated between ethnicities or faiths. We have to come to grips with the new nature of conflict and try to be effective in resolving these.
Helen Clark, I'm afraid we've run out of time. Thank you so much for being with us. And that's it for this edition of The Interview. Do stay with us here on Fries 24.